In this lecture segment, we'll discuss the spec for the LectureLab, and we'll do a walkthrough of a working version of the program. Your job in this lab is to create an expander.css and expander.js file that provide an expander control comparable to the tabs control from the recent lecture. Your files must work with the supplied expander.html file and with any other HTML file following the expander spec. Now, our diagram shows an example page with 4 expander controls, and those are here and here, and actually one here with no pages, and then a 4th one here. As you can see from the static diagram, and from the live interaction which I'll show as we talk here, each expander control has 0 or more subpages, each of which it ornaments with 3 small controls above the page, like these here, and in the live version, which this is, these here. And the 3 controls, clicking on them in order from left to right, will raise a page. Clicking here, for instance, short lorem will go up a notch, or lower a page. Here we'll put it back by clicking the second one. And then the 3rd control expands or contracts the page, or shows or hides the page. Now, the last control, notice, is a lightish green when the page is visible and a light red when it is not. In the static display in the notes file, the last 2 pages of the first expander control are hidden, and all the rest of them are exposed or visible. Now, a couple of details here. Clicking on the up control for the first page or on the down control for the last has no effect. Now, pages may contain any HTML and may have any preset style. Most of the pages shown are either empty or have lorem filler text, but one down here has just a graphical div and no text at all. And even the text examples have different widths, as you can see, and different font sizes. Also, note carefully the margins around the text in the show hide controls up in here, and also the indentation of the pages with respect to the controls. Duplicate these at least to an eyeball accuracy in your implementation. Doesn't have to be pixel perfect. Now, I will supply a ping file for the down arrow icon, and you can use that in turn to build the up arrow icon. Now, the diagram also shows the expander.html file, which is included as a separate independent file as well. And this is the one from which the example controls you were just looking at were created. The controls are specified in each file via a root directory, or div, that has 0 or more subdivs providing the pages. An example might be right here, for instance, for root 1 with 4 subdivs. Each subdiv must have a title attribute giving the string to display in the show hide control, and each subdiv page may also have a style attribute, as at least one of them does down here, or existing class attributes like there, and other attributes. All of these must be preserved when the page is incorporated into the larger expander control, though you may add another style to the page's class attribute or create a class attribute from scratch if needed to support your own display of the page. The script tag in the head branch of the HTML shows how to create expander controls from the configuration divs. You just pass the DOM element object for the root div to expander.makeExpander, and it does the rest, setting up for each page a more complex div containing the 3 controls and the page, and having event handlers configured to make clicking on the controls work as described. Now, a bit about the project planning and submission. few suggestions on how to approach it, along with some details regarding the submission. The expander.css file is an important part of the work. My implementation comprises 41 lines in 10 different styles. Planning the styles correctly will make your JS code much more elegant. I suggest you first write the CSS file and create a mock-up of the HTML that you will generate in expander.makeExpander in order to test out your styles and be sure the layout works. You can even test the expand contract functionality by hand tweaking the HTML to do what your event handlers would do programmatically. It's a lot easier to debug layout issues in static HTML than to do so on dynamic HTML while simultaneously debugging your JS and DOM logic. Once you're sure the mocked-up HTML is exactly what you want the JS to generate, then write the JS. And a little bit about the expander.js as well. Think carefully about keeping expander.js elegant. My implementation, for reference, is less than 40 lines long, not counting the blank lines. I will accept longer implementations, but yours must not exceed 80 non-blank lines. With proper use of the methods of DOM elements, or the functions in DOM elements, most of the operations needed can be done with just a line or two of code. And finally, when you're done, you submit your code by demoing its function to me, both on the supplied expander.html and on any .html file I may supply that follows the rules for expander configuration root divs. Once the demo is cleared, then email me, unzipped, both your expander.js and expander.css files.